All right, friends, what do you think my favorite cold steel fighting knife would be? I have a lot of cold steel knives, and it was honestly like the first knife manufacturer that I got into when I first started martial arts. And the very first knife that I ever bought from cold steel is called the Bush Ranger. Now there's a folding version of the Bush Ranger, and I've never held it, and I don't have any opinions on it. I've seen some mixed reviews online, but that folding version of the Bush Ranger is modeled after this knife. This is the cold steel carbon 5 or carbon V Bush Ranger. It's a fighting knife with a Bowie sort of point, or buoy sort of point, however you want to say it. It comes with a factory not sharpened back edge on the end here, but I actually sharpened it, though you don't have to. It would probably cut you still even as it comes from the factory, but I put a little edge on that. It's got a 90-degree spine. The blade itself is about 7.5 inches long, and then the handle is another 5, making the overall blade 12.5 inches. It's got a real small, too small to be used lanyard hold in the bottom of it. It's difficult, you can't even fit 550 cord or anything in there. It's got a little hand guard here, but the neat thing about that is it's rubberized and it's flexible. I don't know if you can see it, but it can move just a little bit. So it's not like a stiff brass one that will cut into your hand or bother your hand. And the reason I like that is it gives you that protection of that hand guard. It keeps my hand from sliding up, but I also can put my thumb on the back really comfortably and use this to do some bushcrafty stuff. Now this isn't really meant as a bushcraft knife, I don't think, but my first application of this, or in fact my first like real survival education, this was the knife that I carried with me back then. I went on a Boss 7-day field course out in the Zion and Escalante area of Utah. And during that course, we were asked to bring just a few items with us, one of those being a knife. Now, most everybody else on the course, including the instructors, all had these little Mora, these bushcraft knives. And I, of course, like came out with this thing. So my nickname on that course was Rambo from day one. They're like, look at Rambo with this big knife. But there was nothing that I couldn't do with this knife that they could do with their Mora. Their Mora might be a little more comfortable, and to be honest, like if it's just a bushcraft or survival knife, I do appreciate sort of a smaller, more controllable edge. But this thing is great. I just split up a piece of pitchwood, made some feather sticks out of it, and used it to process the pitchwood down so that I could strike with a ferro rod, struck it with the ferro rod with this knife, and everything worked out great. So to be honest, that's what makes this cold steel knife my favorite fighting knife. It's got this Bowie blade, it's got this back edge so I could cut going forward and I could pull coming back. If I drew it this way, I've got this edge on the back and this blade for cutting down and driving in. Again, it's got this hand guard, so I'm not gonna slide on the end. But my favorite thing about this knife is it's a weird feature, and I don't know that I loved it at first, but it's this weird handle shape. This handle is super, super fat. It almost looks like a pregnant fish, but it fits my hand. It fills up my grip so well that the knife doesn't turn. I don't get any sort of weird friction points when I'm using it for long durations. And I feel like it's not gonna twist or wrench or come out of my hand very easily because of the shape, the odd ergonomics of this handle. Again, it's here like this. It's got a neat little diamond texture on it. If you look at this, you can see the cold steel logo on this side, and then on this side, carbon V or carbon 5 and made in the US. Now this knife came with a really cool leather sheath. It had a little button clip to hold it in, and it had a tie off on the bottom so you could tie it to your thigh, and that since has sort of dry rotted, and I had to replace it. So what I did is I reached out to Black Bear Custom Kydex. You guys have heard me talk about them before. They do an amazing job. I sent it off and they sent it back with this incredible sheath, right? It's a pancake style sort of storm gray Kydex sheath, riveted down. It's got these 4 holes that holds this plate on the back and a dangler. Now the knife goes in, you get that click, you get that retention that you want. It's an amazing job, no rattling, no extra noise. The dangler itself is a very thick piece of nylon. It looks bomb-proof. It's got a real cool Black Bear logo piece on the back. And then this plate holds this blade off. Was sort of unsure about it. I thought it was unnecessary weight at first, but to be honest, I can run my belt through there. I can run a fairly large belt through there, and it sits the knife a little higher on my hip. So if I wanted to keep it tight and have it maybe under a jacket or something like that, I could do it. But then this dangler gives me another option to drop it down lower, and I can slide it around on my belt a little bit easier, and it's a little more comfortable if I'm going to be wearing it out in the woods for longer periods of time. So it's probably not a super helpful video because this knife has been discontinued. You can find used versions of them, and I've seen them as low as about $199. I don't remember what I paid for this thing when I bought it. I bought it back in the early 2000s. So I've probably had this thing for 18, 19, maybe 20 years. And again, like, this was the knife that I cut my teeth on when I was doing my survival training. So it's got a very special place in my knife arsenal. It's not as thick as the Cold Steel Recon Scout, which is another Bowie that I like. And it's a little bit longer than the Cold Steel SRK, which is one of my preferred like bushcraft and like survival type knives. So this one fits the middle really well. And with this new sheath and new carry option, this might be the one knife I would grab if I had time to grab something in preparation for some sort of big confrontation or something like that. So this is the Cold Steel Fixed Blade Bushranger, discontinued. It's one of my favorite knives. If anybody's got a connection to Lynn Thompson, I would love to hear his rationale for why they discontinued this knife, and if there was anything that could be done to get it back into production. All right, friends, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check the description box below for different ways you can support the channel. And until next time, Ninja Every Day.